Thank you. Thank you. Whoa, let's back it up. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to try all of these signature drinks that you guys are gonna make because of that last class. Super cool. As Sandra said, I'm Jaymie Lao. My pronouns are she, her. I feel a kinship with Evermeister, who was our keynote speaker today, because I too am introverted, and I am also not a US barista champ. So, so I'm gonna try my best, but we're here to talk about hospitality and guest experience. This is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I might say things that you all already know, and if I do, please allow that to be an affirming moment for you. Some of you may work in cafes. Actually, who here works in a cafe? For sure. Cool. Awesome. Typically, I end up doing a class like this in person with maybe 2 handfuls of people. And typically, I work in that business with those people. That is not the case today. Now I'm talking to 80 plus folks. So we are all coming from different places. We have perhaps different approaches to hospitality. I just want to assure you that I'm not in any way trying to be prescriptive, but I think that there are universal qualities to great hospitality. I may have to step in front here. Okay, so the code of conduct, which you saw earlier today. Today we were talking about hospitality and guest experience. The alternate title to this is how to create a sense of belonging and ultimately create repeat customers in a cafe. I'll say that if any of you worked in cafes pre-pandemic, I don't want to wax poetic or be overly nostalgic, because I am very much about moving forward. I don't want to be in the past, but I do think it was easier to achieve a sense of belonging pre-2020. I see a lot of cafes today, especially in LA, but I'm sure just as I'm traveling, I'm meeting a lot of folks like you who want this. Hopefully, you are able to create a sense of belonging for the people that you serve, but also the people that you work with. As you all attended the previous course on signature beverages with Morgan and Layla, you know that a menu and thoughtful drink building is crucial to driving customers into a cafe, but hospitality is a secret sauce of turning that customer into a regular and potentially a fierce advocate of yours. Okay, so today's agenda. Here's a quick overview of what we will discuss today. First, we're going to go over the meaning of customer service and hospitality, then what the goal of hospitality is. Of course, it's important to discuss the fundamentals of service, essentially the steps of a guest interaction. At the very end, I will share some principles to live by to achieve what I believe to be the goal of hospitality. Cool? All right. I'm going to try my best to do this quickly because I'm super excited about the panel that follows. So if anyone can time check me, Z, if you could time check me, that would be fantastic. All right, so starting with the meaning of customer service and hospitality. I want you all to take a moment and just think of a memorable customer service experience, whether it be bad or good. I'll give you guys a few seconds. Can anyone share one? Who's willing to? Yes.
I was at a nicer restaurant recently for an event, like a date, and I was drinking a martini. As the evening went on, I was kind of sipping it. I was down to about half of a martini glass left. And they come by very quietly up to the table, don't say anything, take my martini, bring a chilled glass, strain my martini into the chilled glass, set it on my table, and walk away. And I was like, I didn't even know you could do that.
That's amazing. Yeah. That is incredible. Wow, attention to detail, temperature obviously important. Learned that in the SIG class. That's awesome. you had an experience to share.
Yeah, this is a really bad experience.
Great.
So this was at my first coffee shop gig, I guess, and we had this cold brew jugs protocol where if you bring it back, you get $5 off.
Oh.
And the guest came in and he was like, yeah, I'm here to get a refill of my cold brew. It's $5, right? And I said, oh, like, no, I'm sorry, it's just like $5 off. And he literally looked into my soul and said, it's $5. Like, I know it is $5. Like, hey, like, it's my first week here. It's not. It's
Yeah.
it's $5 off the purchase.
Aww.
And the whole coffee shop was made of glass. So he literally like swung the door open and like just like shook the whole shop.
No.
And he came in the next day and apologized. So at
At
least
least that happened.
Yeah, but it was like my first week at the coffee shop, and I was like, wow, this is crazy.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that story because you're talking about it from your own experience in delivering service, right?
Yes.
Can anyone share a bad experience where you're receiving service? Very quickly, that hand went up.
I went to Brazil for an origin trip, and like the first day we were just going around Sao Paulo, going to different cafes. And like one of the first places we went to, they gave us like an album that had all of the coffees for pour-overs. And like the person that was serving us, like would not answer any question that we had.
That's wild. Just a blank stare. How, like, what age range was this person, would you say, out of curiosity? This is more for data collection.
Like early 20s.
That's what I was thinking, but I didn't want to say. Okay. Good data point. At the end of the day, customer service is simply meeting the needs of a guest. It's fulfilling an order. This is essentially problem solving, y'all. The wonderful part is it is typically not a mystery what a guest wants. Whether they can have it or not, as a bit of a question, maybe they like misread, what this $5 back situation was going to be. That's on them. A guest will often tell you exactly what they want, so there shouldn't be any reading between the lines. Quote, service is black and white. Hospitality is color, said Will Guidara in his book, Unreasonable Hospitality, which I think aptly describes the transactional nature of customer service. How we fulfill these orders and everything surrounding that is hospitality. So now another question, what comes to mind when you think of hospitality? Yes, people are guests. Guests in your home, guests in your shop. I think a lot of people have different ideas or approaches to hospitality, ones that they bring to wherever they are, whether it be at work or at home. Some people want to treat people as if they're entering their own home, right? What else? Yes. Communication. Yes, absolutely. Clear communication, so important. Yes.
Expectations, either meeting them, exceeding them, or not meeting them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Expectation's really important. I think for expectation, a word that kind of comes to mind, especially in a service position, is anticipation. I think that because there are expectations that exist, we do have to practice anticipation and understand what that expectation might be. Yes?
Care.
Care, absolutely. That's a great key word for hospitality. Perspective, yes. That's a little bit harder because you really have to put yourself in someone else's shoes, right? Yes? Connection, love that. Love that. Any other key words that anyone can think of? Yes. This is like the martini story, right? You were swept away. They didn't even ask you if you wanted it, they did it for you. Yeah, that's amazing. Let's see. Some key words that definitely came to, y'all gave some really good ones. Welcome. to feel welcomed, cared for, warm, memorable, belonging. To me, hospitality is the synthesis of the atmosphere, the delivery of the products, and of course, the guest interaction. Okay, I promise I'll stop probing you guys after this one. Can anyone tell me what they see in these photos? I don't know if it's super clear. Yes, in the back. Shoes off. Yes, you want to? Respect. Okay. Respect why?
Respect somebody else's home. Joining into the same thing that other people are doing.
I see. Yes, picking up on a cue, right? Did anyone else have a thought? I saw your hand in the back. Say it again? Consideration, absolutely, yeah. And then you had your hand up? Oh,
Yeah, and both of these photos they're both the same. It's
Yes.
just they're adapting to different environments.
this is the level of detail
Yeah.
that I'm looking for. Yes.
So, it looks like they serve different purposes as well.
True, yeah. You want to say something?
Well, on the left, it's a few things. It's unorganized and it's blocking the entryway. So it's kind of like you have to, but maybe it's not as inviting. And then on the right is, hey, look, there's a shoe rack.
Yeah.
Put your shoes up nicely.
Oh, true, true.
Home slippers for you to wear while you're inside this home.
Oh,
Wow.
So it's this like kind, inviting space, and it's like it's nudging you to do the thing where the other one's forcing you to do it.
The read is crazy. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Those were like more intense reads than I was expecting. I mean, as someone who lives in a small apartment, this is the vibe right here for me. I wish it was that vibe though. But I share these photos because I think it's important to remember that different approaches to hospitality exist and are acceptable. These are kind of pretty similar, with of course the one on the right having offering other, slippers, sandals inside for people to like switch into if they don't want to like walk barefoot or wear socks. I know that for some people they may come from a culture of you can wear shoes inside. This is not me saying that you shouldn't wear shoes inside, but what I'm trying to say is that different approaches to hospitality do exist and are acceptable. All around us, there are cues that we can pick up on to understand if we belong or are welcome. Sometimes the barrier to entry is you have to remove your shoes first. There's a word in Korean that my Korean-speaking peers will often use, nunchi, when talking about hospitality. My understanding of how to translate nunchi is it is the ability to read the room and understand social cues. So this is a very important skill when it comes to hospitality. All right, so what is the goal of hospitality? Also, thank you all for participating in the interpretation of these images. I feel like we're practicing that every day, all the time. We've probably done it so many times just being in Mill City space. Shout out to Mill City. But the way that we do it in a cafe setting has to be a little bit different, right? Because we're actually setting the tone. So we are the party planners. So you are trying to dictate how people should operate in different spaces. Quote, in a group, if everybody thinks about the other person's needs, everyone's needs are actually fulfilled in the end. But if you think about yourself, if you only think about yourself, you are breaking that contract. Priya Parker, who wrote The Art of Gathering, How We Meet and Why It Matters. Great book about planning gatherings. in life, and especially living in this individualistic country, I think it's hard to accept this. Folks may think that this is promoting people pleasing, but this contract we're talking about here is a social one. It exists when we're in a group or around others, and it's totally reflexive. Whether it's a friend group or a sports team or a community gathered in a cafe, there is an implicit social contract where mutual support and consideration must exist. This means there is effort that we must all put in to understand another person's needs. There is no one-size-fits-all answer. There are no canned responses in hospitality. In essence, great hospitality requires mutual trust and mutual respect. As a disclaimer, I do want to acknowledge that some of you may not have worked in a cafe before, but earlier a lot of hands went up. Some of you may work in cafes that have very different approaches to hospitality from what I'm describing. Nevertheless, I believe some level of autonomy is necessary to create great hospitality experiences. Because there's no one-size-fits-all answer to meeting a person's needs, hospitality experiences cannot be canned ones nor scripted. And I want to speak frankly to baristas, because perhaps some of you may worry that achieving great hospitality only benefits the company that you work for, which is a different topic. But truthfully, this is a well-earned skill that can show you what you are truly capable of. And that skill is not something that any business owner can own. That skill belongs to you and is most certainly a transferable skill. As I mentioned in the disclaimer in the previous slide, every cafe will have different approaches and even different menus. The goal of hospitality in a cafe is to build trust and hopefully create a lasting relationship in the form of a regular. However, you must align this goal with the reality of the cafe that you are in. You'll have to understand what you can and can't do according to the You will have to understand what you can and can't do according to the cafe you're in. How many of you work in a cafe where you can make a dry cappuccino? This might be dating me somehow. You can all make dry cappuccinos. You can make a dry, okay, cool. How many of you work somewhere where you can't? You're not supposed to.
I don't want to say it like that. It's not on the menu that way. If someone asks for one, I guess we technically could, but our standard is not a dry.
Okay, more on that. I want to ask you something. Okay.
Okay, so it's not something that we practice on bar, but if a guest really wants a dry cappuccino, we can absolutely make that for you.
That's what
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Does anyone work somewhere where you have to kind of redirect someone?
I have worked in the past at a shop where we did not fulfill the request of the dry cappuccino.
Okay. Can you say more about that? Like, how do you turn someone down?
I really
Okay. I'll pretend that I'm the customer. Can I have a dry cappuccino?
no.
Like, you have to understand what you can and can't do in a cafe to know how you can still deliver great hospitality. Finding ways to say yes is a skill that takes a lot of practice, to be honest. And sometimes some cafes, they don't really empower you to do that. So if we're talking about this and this sounds really impossible, what we're talking about, I just want to assure you, and just based on, Meister's talk earlier, you do have that power to say yes. You need to find the path to it. And if it's impossible for you to say yes, that is because of the business that you're working for. And that might be okay. Like, I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's wrong to not serve dry cappuccinos. But I'm saying that the more that you understand what's in your ability to do where you are, truly the more successful you can be at delivering great hospitality. Let's talk about the fundamentals of service. So the best way I can think to share this is by describing what a guest's experience is from beginning to end. All right, so before any words are exchanged, of course, if we're talking about the very beginning of a guest experience, we know that this happens way before any words are exchanged. This happens on Instagram. People are looking at the cafe that you work at, and they are seeing maybe a drink that they really like called Tropical, and they're like, I want to try that. I'm so curious. Once they convince themselves to visit the cafe, the space itself can set the tone for the interaction. Is the cafe clean and well taken care of? Is the retail shelf clean frequently, or has dust collected? How long have those dishes been there? I didn't want to drag any cafes, so this is just like a picture that I found on Google. Everything a guest experiences can set the tone for how your eventual interaction will go. And that eventual interaction, once they get to the register, might only be 20 seconds. So all the time that they're spending just before actually talking with you is influencing that experience. Apart from the state of the cafe, how are the people in the cafe carrying themselves in the space? Is it clear who's there to help guests? Simply existing in the space does not mean that you're there to help. Are they ready for me, or are they overwhelmed? Do they look overwhelmed? Being calm and assertive communicates control. I personally feel the most powerful when I'm behind bar. And that is authentic power and not artificial. I want you all to understand the power of open body language versus closed. An example of closed is, like, say if you're behind bar and talking to a coworker, and instead of having your conversation like this, you're having it like this. So if my coworker's right over here, and you are the guest, and I'm just leaning on the counter, and I'm having a conversation with my coworker, I can still have the same conversation with my coworkers. So this is not about don't talk to your coworkers. This is if you're going to have a conversation with your coworkers, just have it this way. Have it be open body language. This is my friend and former coworker Corbin, who is very clearly exhibiting open body language. He's letting me know that he's very present for me, and he's pretty confident I'm gonna like this cortado that he made. But with, closed body language, some questions that might arise for a guest are questions like, is the staff judging me? Someone could be like face to face seeing their coworker, talking about something that the coworker is going through that's really hard, very personal, and that's why you're saying it very closely. But from far away, a customer could read that as like, are they talking about me? That's a silly thing for a customer to think. But I'm just saying that is one of the possible interpretations, right? Another thing that they could potentially think is, do I belong here? Am I cool enough to be here? I never want a customer to ask that. So the more we close ourselves off from serving guests, the more I believe we see control and order. All right, you probably can't see these screenshots very well. And also I have to say that I did ask for permission to share these screenshots. But this is from a conversation with 2023 US Barista Champion Isaiah Sheese. Great guy, wish he was here. But, before any words are exchanged, once again, between you and a guest, that guest can see how you serve others And they can hear your conversations, not just with other guests, but your coworkers as well. Something that a guest might ask themselves is, do they know their product and profession? Small things like how you handle cups and equipment can make a good first impression and communicate knowledge and expertise to a guest. So for those of you who cannot see, in this photo, in this first screenshot, I link a post from noted Level Up sponsor Pacific Barista Series of Isaiah holding his signature drink and handing it to one of the judges. Context, Isaiah is a very large man, and so he has large hands. Also, I don't know if this ever correlated to the score sheet, so please don't like overly think about it, but I send this to him and I say, careful with those fingers, my friend, because his fingers are a little bit close to, the top third of the glass. I was always taught never touch the top third of a cup because that's where customers put their lips. He responded with a nervous smiley face and said, effing fat hands, heard, chef. This was day one of this year's nationals that I sent this to him. So he had the time to actually respond to me, which is kind of wild. And then the next day, once again, noted Level Up sponsor Pacific Barista Series posted this photo, and I shared it with him. And it's a photo of him holding the glass completely differently. He's holding just the stem, right? And I say, excellent. And he says, thanks, coach. So attention to detail, very important. Whether it impacted his actual score sheet, question mark, probably can ask one of the judges here. But thank you for entertaining that screenshot. Things that, a guest might think, apart from how you're handling glassware, apart from how you're interacting with equipment in your space, are of course how you're interacting with your coworkers. They may ask, are they nice? Are they nice to each other? How do they direct each other or give each other feedback? If they're in a stressful moment, are they helping them or are they just watching them drown? It's really important that as much as I'm trying to communicate that hospitality is about meeting or understanding, trying to interpret what the needs of a guest is, you should also be thinking about the needs of your coworkers. Have any of you been taught the steps of service or a steps of service? Or were you just thrown, yeah? Oh, sorry, you're good. Or were you just thrown into service and told to talk to a customer? Yeah? Thrown in service? Dang. Just want to do, can someone tell me oh, there's the time right there. Okay, first things first, greeting a guest. This doesn't always have to be verbal because sometimes they're not right in front of you. Maybe they're walking through the door and there's no one in line. You can just look at them. Looking at a person is comforting unless you're mad dogging them. But I think looking and smiling at them, just being generally present, open, don't want to be prescriptive about this. I think it's just awareness that they are there. At the end of the day, we all just want to be acknowledged as humans. We should just know that they exist in the space. Once they're right in front of you, when you get verbal, please, please, please don't launch into, what do you want? Once again, treat people like they're humans, and you can ask them how they're doing. You can just greet them good morning. Let me know if you have any questions. This, of course, the line of questioning might be a little bit different depending on if there's like a line right behind them, so you don't want to be too casual. You want to consider pacing. But first and foremost, we greet our guests. Secondly, if they're ready, we'll take their order. And when we take their order, we have to ask the right questions. And of course, there's only so many ways that you can ask a question in a different way, but you just want to be curious. You want to be curious about their order. So if someone says that they want a latte, I will not assume that it's just a hot one with dairy. Ask the pertinent questions for whatever it is that they are saying. Next, we are talking about ringing them up. So I'm not here talking about like upselling, but you absolutely can. We can talk about like what other things you can do. We're focused on just the guest experience. So when you ring them up, it is really important that you articulate what is it they said to you. So we know that sometimes things can get lost in communication, in translation. Like if I say to a coworker, hey, I have an iced oat latte to go. And they say, yep. And then they give me like an iced whole milk latte. And I'm like, oh, it was an oat latte. And it's like, well, I heard this. Well, since you're just saying, yep, you're just confirming, you're just saying, yes, 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 I hear you. You don't actually say it back to them. There's no confirmation that they actually heard what you were saying. Obviously, in some cafes, this might not actually be you may not communicate verbally. You might communicate through a bump screen, and that's okay. But what I'm trying to say is when you're talking to a customer, it is important to actually say back to them what they ordered in case there's some kind of mistake, and then you can correct it before it even happens. After you've rung them up, well, you're gonna work on the order. But if you're on register, you're probably gonna take the person who's next. Because of that, you absolutely have to narrate their experience. So just because someone's paid you doesn't mean that you have absolutely nothing to do with their experience. You need to follow that experience from beginning to end. So that means if this is their first time in the space and you ring them up, just let them know where they're gonna pick up their drink. We're gonna get started on that drink. That drink's gonna appear over there. Feel free to hang out anywhere in this area, or if you wanna sit down, I'll come find you. Again, depends on the approach of the shop. But narrating is so important to making people feel comfortable in the space. Especially coffee shops already make people feel really uncomfortable. They're really disorienting because they want to be really beautiful. And sometimes I'm just amazed by the beauty of a cafe, only to be stunned by how poorly I'm spoken to in a cafe sometimes. So important to hold, like figuratively hold the hand of your customer with your words through narration. Once the order is ready, you're gonna deliver the order. And when you deliver the order, you don't just put a drink on the counter and you walk away and hope that they know that that's their drink. I'm sure there's plenty of like IG reels where someone takes a drink that doesn't belong to them. That's never gonna stop, guys. Like, it's never gonna stop. So what you really need to do is actually hold on to the drink and you say, I have a hot chocolate for Morgan. And if someone walks up that's not Morgan, and they're like, is this my cold brew? No. This is a hot chocolate for Morgan. And I'm gonna look at Morgan, I'm like, your drink. Come here and get it. But that's one of the ways that we can practice narration, even delivery, right? When you if it's like a big bag for like an office, you can still say exactly everything that's in there, just so people can feel at ease that everything that they ordered is in there. I know it sounds really silly, but if you've ordered from like Uber or Uber Eats, I'm sure you've gotten your order wrong. I don't know the statistic, but maybe like 30% of the time, let's just say. And there's nothing you can do about it because you didn't have someone to like say the order back to you. Lastly, in the steps of service, just because someone received everything that they ordered doesn't mean the experience is over. If they're still in the space because they haven't walked away yet, follow up with them. Ask them how their drinks were, or ask them, well, don't ask them if they got everything because presumably you know everything that they got. But if you're a little bit concerned because they look, like they're waiting for something, yes, absolutely check in with them. But follow up, see if they're enjoying their drink, give them an opportunity to give you some feedback about the drink. That's always really helpful. You might also be able to make a second sale. Maybe they're like, I like that drink so much, I want another cold brew. So, all right. I'm gonna leave you guys with some principles to live by. These are principles that I definitely employed in past lives as barista, and they're ones that I try to teach anyone who is trying to be a hospitality-focused barista. First and foremost, be positive. What does be positive mean? It's not so much that you have to be nice and fake and whatever else. Like if you showed up to work and you don't feel that way, that's absolutely valid. But when I say be positive, what I mean is the energy that you bring to any interaction is absolutely reflexive. So if you are positive, maybe you're not feeling great, but you're like, I'm gonna be positive in this customer interaction. That will reflect back to you. That happens even amongst coworkers where, if you're positive to your coworkers, they'll be positive back to you. And then obviously on the other side of the coin, if you're not, then you're gonna have a fight probably. But there's one that's not on here that I just wanna fit in before going to the other three, which is to be honest. I don't know why I didn't think about this before I finished the deck, but being honest is really important. So if someone asks you, is my drink ready yet? Don't respond with, it's coming. It's coming is not a comforting phrase to anybody. Be honest. It's going to be probably 10 more minutes. Or if there's like a visible queue and there's so many people inside, of course there must be drinks that are in front of them. So you can also physically just be like, this is your drink, and it looks like there's 5 more drinks before them. There is so much comfort in that level of honesty. I'm sure that you have all experienced waiting in a long line and then waiting after you've ordered for whatever that product is, and then finding that it won't come to you for like 30 minutes and no one's checked in with you. No one's like followed up. And when you do actually ask them, they might say, it's coming, it's on the way. There is no, sure, it is gonna come. But also, how many times has it actually been dropped? Maybe a few. In any case, be honest. The next principle to live by is every guest deserves the same level of service. That doesn't mean that every single person wants to have a full-blown conversation about their life. That means you have to understand what service is to them, or at least understand what they want and meet them there. So if someone is a customer that is just like, I just want a black coffee, and you're like, cool, and you just give it to them as quickly as you can. But then you have like another customer on the other end of the spectrum who really wants to talk about their life, and you really want to talk to them about their life because it's so interesting. Meeting both of those people where they're at is giving every guest the same level of service. It doesn't mean that there is a very particular canned way to interact with customers. Mistakes are an opportunity to impress. You are not being asked to be perfect. And like I said before, sometimes we drop things. When we make mistakes, we have such a unique opportunity to actually impress customers with how we recover from that. It doesn't mean that you have to like comp things or do anything like that. I think, once again, being positive, being honest, will help customers to appreciate the level of service that you're giving. And finally, the service that you give comes from you. This is really important because everything that I just talked about is some level of problem solving. There is no giant tome of all the possible problems and issues that could exist in a cafe. And so you are doing a lot of work to give excellent service. And if you want the answer is presented to you, then you don't want to do any problem solving. But I think there is a finite amount of issues that can exist in a cafe, at least I hope. And that service is something that you bring to the table, is not something that the company that you're working for owns, and is something that you take with you. So you should take pride in the service that you give. With these principles, with enough care and attention to detail, and understanding of the needs of those around you, you can deliver great hospitality and a sense of belonging. Thanks, everyone. I'm gonna open it up to some questions, maybe. Actually, no questions. Just kidding. No, you can ask me questions. But also, I just want to truly thank everyone for listening. I'm not really a public speaker, but I do enjoy doing one-on-ones and talking with people. So I'm just doing it now with like 80 people plus. That's pretty cool. Questions? Yes. You are asking how to uplift your coworkers because a lot of this resonates with you, but perhaps not yet with your coworkers, and how can you get them to be excited about it as well? I think curiosity is really important, and so I do invite you to encourage your coworkers to be excited about it, and honestly, I think that's just having a conversation either on the floor or honestly, you could have it at like a different cafe, because I do think having those kinds of conversations in one's own place of work can be really challenging, especially if they don't feel safe. I think it's important, like if you want the most honest response, they need to feel safe. Yeah. But you also do have to ask, well, what are you excited about being here? Or what is your expectation for your time here? Because a lot of us are not going to be at the places that we work at currently forever, even if you're an owner. Even if you're an owner, sometimes, I don't know, you might want to sell your business and that's an option that you have. So that's not forever, but like, acknowledging that we're not always going to be in the same place. What do you want to take away from your time here? And if you can zero in on that, then maybe there's a way that it's connected to what resonates with you, and then you can get them to be excited. I hope that makes sense. Yes? Yes. So they just asked if you're, sorry if I'm like rewording this in a weird way. What are some tips on how to deal with a customer who maybe isn't giving that same energy back to you or wants something that you're not able to give? Is that more or less? Okay. And also, you mentioned a phrase that I absolutely abhor, which is the customer is always right. I don't actually believe that. I probably should have led with that because I forgot that that's a phrase that still exists. I think just starting there, I think it is really important to know if the cafe that you work at actually prioritizes employees over guests, to understand if that's true or not. So, knowing that, if they do prioritize employees, how to get, well, redirecting people, whatever it is that they want. I guess if there's like a specific example that you have of a thing that someone wants, can you share? Oi, okay. So my specific tip there is you're not that drink. That drink doesn't represent you. So if that person didn't like it, that's on them. And those sort of negative experiences can be so harmful, I know, but if you just focus on the fact that like that singular bad experience is one in a sea of like dozens, hundreds of like positive experiences that you're having throughout the day, that is like no sweat off your back. Yeah. And I'm not saying ignore it. I'm saying that person's probably having a bad day, and that's not your fault. And you're not the drink. So, you know, if someone doesn't want the product that you're giving, that's not a rejection of you. Not that that's what you're thinking, but just in general to everyone, that's not about you. That's just the drink. I wish I had another tip, but I feel like that person is kind of like incendiary, and so I'm kind of like, well, if I feel like I can't actually have a respectful conversation, then I don't really want to start one. Sorry, is that weird? Cool. Probably more on that, more questions like that. Great for Eric Grimm's course on HR. I didn't include any sort of like customer de-escalation stuff because I knew that they were going to talk about that. Anyway, please feel free to scan this QR code to give me some feedback. Really super open to it. And of course, if you have any questions about hospitality, I'm here. I'm here all day. And also, I'm on the internet. Come find me. DM me.